What's going on, guys? Chuck here with another awesome Blu-ray purchase. Today we look at the second of the two recently released David Cronenberg films from Second Sight, and that is 1979's The Brood. Now, this is one I had seen way back when, probably a VHS rental, quite frankly. But I hadn't seen it since then. But this is one I've always been intrigued by, and I feel like it's an underlooked Cronenberg film. You know, I always talk about all those other great films, but I never hear anyone talk about The Brood. So I was very excited when this got a nice 4K release, along with scanners from Second Sight. Now my history with The Brood is kind of strange, if you. I don't know, strange is different. Excuse me. I first heard about this film, of all places, in this book. And what the hell is this book? This is a library book, actually. A library book from way back when that I never returned. The statute of limitations is over. I do apologize. This is called The Great Book of Movie Monsters. And this is actually still available. I actually looked for it on Amazon out of curiosity. It is still available. But this was like from 1983, and this is basically, I may have talked about this before. This is basically a encyclopedia of movie monsters, from B movies to stuff fairly current around the time. But it's kind of aimed at a younger audience, like kids, which was fascinating. I love this book because it was just something that it introduced a lot of stuff I didn't know, but I mean, it was done in in a way that made it fun. I mean, here's the excerpt from The Brood, and what it does is it tells you, with Alias, The Children of Rage, born and died 1979, starred in The Brood, New World Pictures 1979, director David Cronenberg. But then it goes into how it was created, the method of creation, basically, kind of synopsis. Size and weight, sex, the description, what their superpowers are, occupation, which is hilarious. Mutant babies born from hate, that's their occupation. Territory, Canada. Food, habits, friends, enemies, relatives, which in this case were children of the damned, and It's Alive. Intelligence, sounds and language, their accomplishments, and how they're killed, their current status, and what to do if you meet. This is all fascinating to me, and there's like so many other creatures in here that I just, I love reading about this. Like, this is a great book for kids to introduce themselves to these monsters, and this is how I met or was introduced to The Brood. I do want to say, though, there's something really interesting about this that has always thrown me for years, because it talks about the end. I'm going to give a spoiler alert for if you've ever seen The Brood. So, this is an FYI. It talks about here under killed by, but it explains at the end that Frank, who was the father, I'll get into in a minute, he sets the place on, this place on fire, and killing the Brood and all that. That is not what happens in the film. There is no fire. And for years, that's always thrown me, because I'm like, is there some kind of alternate cut that I don't know about, that I preview? Was it a television version? Where is this? And I've seen nothing about it anywhere else. No hints of a deleted scene or alternate ending or anything like that. It just mentions there was a fire, but there's no, other than this book, there's no other recollection or no other mention of that at all. So I think they just basically got their facts wrong when doing this. They're not trying to be too detailed. I mean, this book is really for, fun. So I don't fault too much for that, but it's always thrown me for years, especially when I first saw it, and thinking, this is not how the book told me it was going to end. I do apologize again. My voice, for some reason, is still got that really froggy thing, and I can't seem to shake that. I don't know. It's like the last remnants of this cold I've had for weeks, which is, for the most part, is gone. But this throat thing will not go away, so my voice is kind of, rough, and I do apologize. The other way I was familiar with The Brood was, again, Terror in the Isles. I saw a lot of scenes from it. For a long time, it's the only way I ever saw The Brood, or scenes was from Jared Niles. But like I said, I did see, I believe I rented it, years and years and years ago. But I had not seen it since, and I always wanted to get about it. I never forgot about it because it always struck me as a very interesting movie. And like I said, when Second Sight announced this release, I jumped at it immediately. Now I noticed it's had other releases. I know Criterion had put out a release, and I had always thought about getting that, but I never pulled the trigger on it for whatever reason. Priorities, money, whatever. But like I said, when this was announced, I just jumped on it immediately, and I am so glad I did. This is great. So, for those of you not familiar with The Brood, basically it's a story of a father, Frank, whose wife is kind of estranged. She's staying at this facility, where she's getting some kind of, isolationist, some kind of treatment for her psychosis. She's kind of unstable. And her doctor, played by the great Oliver Reed, is basically, he's doing a study where teaching patients how to manifest their anger physically. And by doing so, I mean like punching stuff, but physically on their body, in the form of lesions and boils or whatever the case may be. And, Nola, who is Frank's wife, is more or less kind of his pet project star pupil, if you will. And there's, Frank has his daughter who visits Nola on the weekends, but, he goes to pick her up and discovers that she's got, bruises and a scratch all over her, and thinking, okay, there's abuse. So there's something going on here. And, I don't want to get too much into it if you've never seen it. But like I said, it's basically a study into, or not study, but it's really hard to just, again, it's all about, where, there is something going on here. There's a mystery, but it has to do with, the Oliver Reed character in teaching Nola, and Nola is raging because she's really off the deep end, because they have these conversations, the way Oliver Reed's character treats his patients is he kind of confronts them like a character role play. You'd probably see a lot in a lot of therapy sessions. Reed will play the focus of his patient's anger and kind of taunt them on, and egg them on to get them to, as he says, go all the way through with their rage. Again, and you see this in the very first scene of the film, where he's having a session with a patient, Michael, and he's basically has daddy issues, and he's lashing out that rage. So that's what this is. Like I said, Nola is like reached a whole other level with it, and that's all I really get into. Because if you've never seen it, I really want you to check it out. And if you've already seen it, then I'm just going over stuff you already know about. But again, this is the first time I've watched it in decades, and I was really gripped by it. The story, which is interesting because you find I didn't know this until listen to some of the special features, that David Cronenberg wrote this kind of as an exercise. He was dealing with a very nasty, messy divorce at the time, which involved apparently, from what I believe it was Howard Shore mentioned, or Howard Shore, or the cinematographer, someone in the, I think it was a cinematographer, mentioned that I guess David Cronenberg's wife took his daughter to a cult, and he had to go and basically rescue her from that. So he's working out a lot of stuff in this film, obviously. Once you know that and you see this, like, wow, okay. And it's also this is 1979. I know that in the late 70s, the kind of anger therapy, I don't know what you call it, the primal screams, that was a really big rage around that time. You had these things where you learn how to manifest, you have like screaming parties or all kinds of weird stuff. That was kind of weird, nuanced, kind of psychiatry, I guess. More like, maybe it evolved from the hippie 60s and the 70s. I don't know, but I remember that was a really popular thing. And I think it's kind of a play on that with the what do they call it? Psycho plasmatics, I think is what the procedure or the whole thing is called. But it's interesting. I mean, it's a snapshot of that period in time. Um, Also in this is the little girl, uh, Candace. I mean, we call her Candy for short. She doesn't have a lot. Oh, she's a focus in the film. She doesn't have a lot to say, but she's a character who is, when that girl grows up, she's gonna have therapy herself. um, does a really good job of playing traumatized because this girl has seen some stuff, and she's experienced some stuff, and it's from the very beginning, you tell it's affecting her, it's traumatizing her, not only with her parents' separation, but other stuff she's seeing that's going on that she knows about, and it just progresses as the film goes on, and the little girl, whose name escapes me right now, but I'll get to it, but she just does a really good job of just playing that fear and that lost confusion in her face. It's really good for her. I think she said she's 8 years old playing like 5, but it's a really good performance. So, I mean, there's a lot of, it's a good psychological drama, along with the typical body horror you get from David Cronenberg. So I really enjoyed it a lot. I actually, of the two, between this and Scanners, and this being Scanners the first time, I really enjoy this one more than Scanners. I don't know what it is. I think I was really more invested in the story, honestly, in the Brood, than I was with Scanners. Not that it wasn't good, but I really did like the Brood a lot. And this is a great, another great second sight release. So let's take a look at this. Here's the Slowhouse cover with Samantha Eggard as Nola. Here's your side. And on the back, you've got this great artwork, which is a classic image you always see when you talk about the Brood, is the Brood attacking little Candy. Inside, you've got your discs. Open it up, and you've got your Oliver Reed. They hear a lot of good stories about Oliver Reed on here. Of course, Oliver Reed was known for his drinking, and the stories are told very well about his performance here. But they also mentioned, he would go out and party all night, but he'd come on the next day and just be totally professional, would work, know his lines. He never had a hangover, they said. It was really crazy. And here we go, the 4K and your Blu-ray. And I just want to tell you right now, the 4K, the movie look beautiful. It's very crisp, it's smooth. It's, again, I doesn't compare, but it's been like decades since I've seen it. 30, 40 years, maybe. 35 years possibly since I've seen it. But it just looks so good. I mean, I don't think they had any, there were no sound options on here. It's basically it started in place. I'm assuming it was like a simple, 1.0 mono track or whatever. But it sounded good. I had no problem with the dialogue. Everything was good. And the music, the Howard Shore score was great. But the picture images look really good. And one thing I really like about the film, too, is it taking place in Canada. The look of the movie just feels cold. You feel cold the whole movie. The lead actors are Art Hindle, I think his name was. Art Hindle. He's always in a big coat because it's cold. I mean, you go outside, everybody's in the coat. The Brood are in coats. Everyone's just all reason in a big coat. It just feels cold the whole movie. You just get that sense of cold. You see the breath from their in their mouths, and everything is just got a really cold feel. And at some points, the cinematography can kind of really show that off. You really feel it. So this 4K looks really good, and I said I have no complaints. It is beautiful. So I'm sure this is probably the best this film is ever going to look. And again, there's something about these 70s, late 70s, late 80s films getting this 4K treatment to me that just makes them stand out even more in why I like that look of that 70s and 80s film. It just really pops and looks so good. So yeah, waxing nostalgic here. We've got in here, your art cards, which I have not opened up yet again. I will do that right now. And I think much like the Scanners release, these are strictly just reproduction of the art that's used in the packaging. Yeah. So no like lobby cards or anything like that. Oh, these are a little bit different. There's a couple different ones in there, I think. No, they're not. I haven't got that far yet. So there's that. And of course, that is the book. That's what those last two were, the artwork for the book. And again, much like Scanners, it's a nice big soft cover, but hardbound. And man, there's a lot of essays in here. Here's your contents. And this would be a lot of fun to go through and read. Take a lot of time now, but yeah. But I think very interesting. I really like this movie a lot. Woo! There's that great smell too. Again, Second Sight and Arrow. Something about those. There's stuff. There's great smell. So yeah, this is just a great set. I mean, packaging wise, it's very similar to Scanners, which makes sense because they're released same time to both David Cronenberg films. It's nice that they kind of have a very similar style. So let's take a look at what special features are on here. Because I will tell you, well, actually, read the special features. Let me read the special features to you, and then I'll say what I was going to say. So we have a new 4K restoration approved by director David Cronenberg. Dual format editions, including both UHD and Blu-ray, with main feature and bonus features on both discs, which, like I said, with Scanners is really cool. So, where typically you would have your 4K and maybe your audio commentaries, and then all your special features would be on the region, locked Blu-ray. Not the case. The 4K has all your special features and it's region free, and of course the Blu-ray is region locked but has all your special features. So, no matter what, whether you have a region free Blu-ray player, you can get it and get your special features, or if you've got the 4K player, you can get it and get all the special features. So that is really nice that Second Sight is recognizing that, and I think actually more companies I've noticed, I'm seeing a few more companies putting their special features on the 4K as well as the Blu-ray, so not just strictly on the Blu-ray. The UHD is presented in HDR with Dolby Vision. You have a new audio commentary by Martin Contiero and Kat Ellinger. Audio commentary by William Beard. Meet the Carveths, an interview with actors Art Hindle and Cindy Hines by Fangoria editor Chris Alexander. Producing the Brood, an interview with executive producer Pierre David. Look of Rage, an interview with cinematographer Mark Irwin. Scoring the Brood, an interview with composer Howard Shore. Character for Cronenberg, an interview with actor Robert A. Silverman. And Anger Management, Cronenberg's Brood in the Shape of Cinematic Rage. A video essay by Lee Singer. Cronenberg, the Early Years, an archive interview with David Cronenberg. Now, almost everything on here, minus that first commentary and the video essay, are all archive material. None of it's new. I'm not sure where they sourced from before, not knowing what the releases were. But I did notice almost every one of them was copyrighted 2013 from Severin Films, which is interesting. Except for, I think the Howard Shore might have been a little more recent, like 2016 or something like that. And like I said, the new essay is from 2025, and the first audio commentary is new. So everything else is old material. I'm not sure where they got it from, but I just know it's copyrighted to Severin Films, which is interesting. And they're all, the first one with the Art Hinkle and Art Hinkle, is that right? Art Hindle, excuse me, and Cindy Hines, who played Frank and Candy. That goes about 17 minutes. The rest of them about 10, 11 minutes, real short, snippets. The USA is probably about 17, 20 minutes, something like that. But they're all interesting, real quick, extra features. So they're worth checking out. But yeah, so that is pretty much it for this beautiful 4K release of David Cronenberg's The Brood. Again, what I feel is an underlooked David Cronenberg film, at least in my eyes. I never hear people talk about it or discuss it. When they talk about David Cronenberg films, like it's usually, you hear like Videodrome, Scanners, The Fly, all those things, even Rabid, I think. But no one really talks about The Brood, and I think that's a shame. I think it should really be reevaluated and checked out, especially in this new 4K release, because this is a great slow burn psychological film, and a great metaphor for a messy divorce too. So that is it for this one. If you enjoyed this, click thumbs up, share, subscribe, leave me a comment below. Let me know if you picked up The Brood, if you've seen The Brood. Was it been like me, like 30 some years since you've seen it to seeing it now? Did you have this book? You remember this book? I mean, a legit copy of this book, not this library bound copy. Again, statute of limitations up on that. Or just say hi. I'll always take hi. So until next time, this is Chuck saying I will see you on the other side.